welcome back to the official live stream of Veteran Lifestyle Magazine podcast. I'm Annette Winberger, and we are live. Thank you for tuning in, where we bring the stories, struggles, and successes of veterans to life. This show is an extension of our magazine's mission to bridge that gap between military and civilian life, provide real resources, and celebrate the resilience of those who have served. In each episode, we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations with veterans, military spouses, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders who are making an impact. We'll cover mental health, career transitions, entrepreneurship, advocacy, and the real-life challenges of life after service, all with the goal of informing, inspiring, and empowering our community. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Whether you're a veteran, a military spouse, or someone who supports the community, you belong here. So let's have the conversations that matter. Welcome to the Veteran Lifestyle Magazine podcast, where your story matters. And here I will bring up my co-host, Joe Palacios. We have special guests Mikey Sauers and Joe Hildebrand. So welcome everybody to our podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. So I wanted just to bring up, we have here, your bio is extensive. It's impressive. You guys are amazing people. But I wanted to just throw up here for people to read if they can read it, but I will read it for you. So for Mikey Sauers, Navy SEAL veteran, founder of Forge, co-founder of the Murph Challenge. He is also a 13-year Navy SEAL combat veteran who deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kosovo, most notably serving in the Battle of Ramadi, as featured in the Warfighters and Warfare. He is the founder of Forge, a patriotic apparel brand raising millions for veterans and first responders, and the co-founder of the Murph Challenge, which has raised over $2.25 million for the Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy Foundation and Murph SEAL Museum. Mikey continues to inspire through service, leadership, and legacy. He has a scholarship foundation and the Murph SEAL Museum through the Murph Challenge campaign. And then we have Joe Hildebrand, a retired Navy SEAL with 26 years of distinguished military service, originally from Arkansas. He joined the Navy out of high school, serving first as a CB and later spending the majority of his career in the SEAL teams. He held multiple leadership roles, including Command Master Chief, and served with SEAL Teams 1, 3, and 5 on the West Coast. He deployed numerous times in the support of U.S. national security interests across the globe. A pivotal moment in his career is depicted in a recent film, Warfare, portraying a combat mission in Ramadi, Iraq, where Joe served alongside teammates Elliot and Ray. Since retiring from the Navy in 2021, Joe has worked in the defense technology sector in San Diego, California. He lives with his wife, Kara, and has 5 children. He is currently writing a memoir titled Alone in the Platoon Space, which chronicles his physical and mental recovery, following his journey and his journey forward. So, oh my gosh. So thank you both. Like I said, that was condensed version because I could have been here for a while because you guys you're amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to add to introduce yourselves?
I think you said it all.
Yeah, that was plenty. More than we normally like to say.
Yeah.
I would like to add something.
I understand.
I'd like to add something to that bio.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you for creating the Murph, because my wife absolutely makes me do that every year. So thank you. She loves doing it too. Like we break it up, and we don't do it.
It's a great way to push yourself.
We definitely break it up into stages, and we get it done. She actually got me to do it one time, carrying a flagpole, which was kind of cool. The neighbors were all like, well, we know where the military guy lives. So thank you for that.
Well, make sure you go to murphchallenge.com and register this year.
There's so much that I want people to hear about you, but we'll start with the first one. And this one is, we both served during the Battle of Ramadi, an experience later portrayed in the film Warfare. How did that moment shape your view of leadership, brotherhood, and life beyond the battlefield?
I'll let Joe, since I think it had a bigger impact. I mean, it had a big impact on both of
Yeah.
us, but as far as physical impact, I mean, I think it impacted Joe mentally too. He had a tougher road to come back, so I'll let him take the first bite at this.
Yeah. So that's a pretty big, broad question. So let me
Right.
jump into, like, as far as, brotherhood and then, what we experienced there. Anytime, like, the SEAL team's it's very brotherhood-ish to start with. I mean, you're in a tight-knit organization that you're very close to your teammates. But now you add in that next layer of complexity, putting them somewhere as bad and dangerous as Ramadi, Iraq. It brings you even closer. And then so we all lived a certain experience that day that I think that we all will take away from it, for the rest of our lives. And that brought us closer, closer together, and more of a brotherhood, I guess, for that small group of people. But as far as, what that day, that was a tough time for all of us. We definitely had a pretty rough time there, but I think it brought us all, closer together. And then the mental health, from that, I think we all just carried a little bit of baggage or guilt along, away from that. And I think that's something that we've been able to sort through and kind of offload at this point.
Yeah, definitely. We were alluding to earlier when I was talking to you guys before we came on camera, we were talking about the experience of the film and, the impact it had on us. And like Joe was saying, it was definitely a deployment that was unlike any other deployment that I had done. I mean, I'd gone to combat deployments, but knowing that we were going in there to relieve the task unit that was in there already, they had taken some casualties. Guys, Mark Lee, Mikey Mansour had been killed. We had attended those funerals before we went on that deployment. So there was just a level of seriousness, humility, somberness when we got into the country. So straight from the beginning, it was just a unique deployment. And then, we were only on deployment a few months when the actions that were depicted in Warfare happened, and Joe and Elliot were catastrophically injured. So as far as brotherhood went, when Elliot left, we didn't know if he was going to survive, for several weeks. And we knew that, it was going to be a long road for him and Joe both to fully recover. And, unfortunately, Elliot was never able to fully recover. So there was, as the platoon went on, we still had to operate, though. It was like, I would say it's like, being on a professional sports team and you're in a deep playoff run and two of your starters just go away and you're still expected to win the Super Bowl. It was tough for us just to keep going on. We brought in some other guys to fill in their spot, but there was just a tight knit brotherhood to know that those guys weren't there with us. It was really tough for us. And like I said, when we first saw the first rough cut of the movie, it was just mainly Alex Garland and Ray, who were the co-directors and writers on the film. They had a showing for us in Coronado at the theater there. And like I said, it was, mainly just the guys who were actually on the mission who gave input and some close friends and family. And I think that was, for me, that was the first time that I'd ever sat down with that core group of guys since that mission. I had seen guys here and there, at parties and different events, but to actually get that core group of guys. So I just, speaking for myself, like seeing how realistic it was and how it brought us back to that day. A lot of things really came to life. And I mean, even after the screening, I think we were all just quiet for a good 10, 15 minutes before, we started to talk about it. So it was definitely a humbling experience.
There were a few things that you mentioned, Mikey, as you were talking that really kind of like stood out to me. And it was about this leadership and being in this unit and creating this brotherhood. I've always had this kind of idea that really we should let those things that are hard and the hardships in life bring us together. Because you mentioned a few things. You mentioned high performance football players, and then you mentioned how you guys work closely together. I just want to know if you guys feel when you become a SEAL, when you actually get your trident, is there automatically a level of kind of when you come into a team after you graduate BUDS and you go to a team? I know you're not all the way a SEAL yet, right? After BUDS, again, I'm kind of ignorant to things because I'm not a SEAL and I haven't done that training.
No,
What
there's
the
a
thing is, like,
qualification
there is a level
process.
of kind of like already brotherhood because you knew that they didn't quit, that they went through the same rigorous kind of hard training that you did. So just getting there, you already have kind of this level of trust. Because that's how I feel when I meet Marines or even veterans in general, right? That they completed basic training, they served their country, and I have kind of a certain level of trust. Now, the more you train and the more you kind of hardship that in the military, I found that brotherhood gets tighter and tighter and tighter, right? Like your SEAL community is super tight. In Marine Corps, the MARSOC guys super tight because they all do these experience training. Do you feel there's kind of like a parallel there between kind of recognizing that, hey man, we all suffer and we come together? Is that kind of anything to that when you guys go through your kind of brotherhood and you're connecting and growing together?
Yeah, it's and I'll talk about this a little bit, then I'll let Joe jump in here. Um, it's a little different in the SEAL teams when you're a new SEAL checking into a team. Um,
Yeah.
it's not always so open
Oh,
arms,
I
you
left.
know.
No, I got it, man.
So,
I left out the
Yeah.
hazing part because we all get through
it,
that too. But yes, go
but
ahead, right?
but I do have a unique take on that for this actual story because I was actually a BUDS instructor, a third phase BUDS instructor, and I wasn't in the platoon and task unit that ended up going to Ramadi. I wasn't in there from the very beginning. So I didn't come into the task unit until about 2 months before the deployment. There was a guy in the platoon. I don't know what happened. He either got injured or had something happen to where he couldn't go on deployment anymore. So I got a call asking if I would like to come over and join the platoon, which it's kind of like go back to the football analogy. It's like being a veteran free agent on a 500 team and someone calling you and saying, "Hey, would you like to jump on a Super Bowl competitive team?" And you're like, "Okay, yeah." And of course, you're all happy. And then they said, "Where are we going?" We're going to Ramadi. And I'd already gone to Mark Lee's funeral, and then I knew, and I had known Jocko from serving with him at Team 2, and I knew some of the guys over there, and I'd been in contact with them. So, I mean, it was. I mean, I knew we were going into a very difficult and arduous situation, but like I was saying, the old school teams where you got to the team, the new guy was there. There was this long period, 6 months, a year, where you kind of had to prove yourself. And me just going over there, and there was a lot of guys, all the new guys in that task unit, I had put through training, like all of them. So they had remembered me because you always remember your BUDS instructors. But it was a different time because we realized how serious of a situation we were going into, and you knew that you had to rely on those guys, whether they were new guys or not. You knew that they were going to be responsible for protecting you, and you were going to be responsible for protecting them. So there was really no time for that hazing and that little workup period of getting to know guys and the initiation. It was a trial by fire. So yeah, there was a quick common bonding. Just that was my perspective.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I mean, like you're saying, Joe, there is suffering together does bring you closer together, and that's and then also the commonality of the same training. And that's one of the things we get from buds is, everybody goes through the same hell week. Everybody goes through the same training so that you have this commonality, that you have an understanding of that you've all done the same thing. So you can trust that they have this mental and physical toughness. Now, when you finish buds, you go to SEAL qualification training, you get your trident, and you show up to a team. We'll keep it on the football analogy. It's like once you got drafted to a new team, you don't know any of the plays. So you're going to get there. You're going to start just trying to figure out how this team or this team already operates. And, there's that piece of being a new guy. Like Mikey was saying, even though he was an older guy, he's essentially a new guy for a little while just to get up to speed with how that platoon operates or that team does their same business. But yeah, there is a lot of, commonality when you suffer together. It does bring you closer.
Do you also find that when you guys are in your team level, is there a lot of fluidity? Like, there's a lot of fluidity in finding roles, because Mikey comes in, right? He's new and he's got to figure out how the team operates. But maybe there's somebody in the team that recognizes, man, Mikey's a lot better at this thing than I am, and I can actually focus on this other thing that I'm really good at, but that I don't ever do because the team needs me this. So there's that fluidity as well, correct? Like when you kind of get in there, it's not a rigorous structure in the team.
No.
I
was just going to say,
back to the football analogy, like even when they called me, they were calling me for a specific position. When you need a veteran to come in, you bring in a quarterback or a kicker or whatever you need. They needed someone to run certain positions in the platoon, so they had already known what they needed when they called over there. So the fluidity of that, you're already positioned in parts, but also in the teams, you can have multiple different specialties, so you can fit all kinds of different pieces.
Yeah. So yeah, whenever a platoon's about to deploy or a team's about to deploy, if they're missing a certain qualification, you usually go shopping for a veteran SEAL that has that qualification, that has a good, that is kind of ready to step out and go deploy with you.
I wanted to ask both of you, actually. So Mikey, you co-founded Forged and the Murph Challenge, and then Joe, you're writing your memoir, Alone in the Platoon Space. What inspired each of you to move into storytelling and the legacy building after your military careers?
You want me to jump in there, Mikey?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So for me, I hadn't put a lot of thought into writing a memoir until I had. So I've got 5 children altogether, but I've got 2 younger children from my new marriage, and so one's 2 years old and one's 7 months old. Well, they didn't experience and live through any of me rehabilitating and getting back on my feet and that whole mental and physical struggle. So I started jotting it down for them because I wanted them to see that later in life, because I feel like there were some pretty big, significant hurdles to have to navigate. And I learned a lot along that process about how to, take care of myself and how to try to rebuild from a very broken state, whether it be physical or mental. Because from my standpoint, it was essentially both. I was pretty devastated because I was a pretty high level athlete and a SEAL, and then I go from that to I can't walk, and there's I'm not on a team anymore. So anyway, I started kind of writing it out for them, and then I realized that my journey is not unique. It is unique, but it's not totally unique to anyone. There's a lot of people out there struggling and thinking they're alone, going through this process, whether it's through loss or tragedy or addiction or the whole gamut of things that I think being able to put the story out there and say, hey, I had to go through this, and here's the blueprint that I made. This is how I did it. I set goals and achieved those goals. And I think it's going to be helpful to other people. And that's kind of my mindset here is like, I'm not writing it as it's a memoir, but it's more of a self-help, like, hey, other people have done things and you can do this too. And is also, I'm trying to put a focus on people understanding that we have to help ourselves. People, a lot of times you're told like, oh, you'll get surrounded by all these people that can help you, do something. But the reality is you're alone. You have to do things on your own. Those steps that you take, the rehabilitation you do, whether it's physical or mental, you have to do that yourself. Those steps belong to you. and I want people to understand that you have to help yourself. So that's kind of where I've started writing this out and turning it from a memoir more into a self-help book to get out to people, to hopefully help not just veterans, but anyone that struggles in life. We know we all struggle somewhere.
Commend you for doing that. Such a hard thing to do. They need us to kind of remind them that you can still make it. It's hard and it's going to suck, but no. So thank you. I can't wait to read it. So thank you so much.
And Joe, I put it in our chat for you. I see, and what's crazy is I think the first step on that whole kind of thing is to just learn to love yourself. And I think that's kind of one of the things that we forget. We think like, oh man, I got to heal myself. But what's crazy is like the first step to healing yourself is to recognize I love me, right? Like you got to love yourself first. Like love yourself as you are because you're worthy of it. And when that happens, I think the steps to healing just automatically happen. I think it's just weird that sometimes we think that we got to get to this someplace first before we can show ourselves love, and that's just kind of sad, and it kind of hurts my heart. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I love that you said that love yourself. And you got to do that. So.
Yeah. So, Mikey, can you talk to us about Forge and the Murph Challenge? I mean, I know a lot of us know about the Murph Challenge.
Options you can do too. If you look
For the
at
old
the website, there's some broken down, scaled options. You can do a
Okay,
quarter mark. Yeah, just as long as you're challenging yourself and putting in the effort, put in the work.
It'll be a challenge just to do it. So yeah, go ahead and talk to us about those.
Well, actually, it was the events that are portrayed in the movie Warfare from that day that inspired me to start Forge. I kind of just stumbled on the idea when we got back from that deployment. A few of us got together and we made a tribute shirt for the deployment to honor our wounded brother, Elliot Miller. And at that point, I was just planning on re-enlisting and staying in the Navy for 20 years. And we just sold some of the shirts around the team, and we used the proceeds to help Elliot with his recovery. And I just remember seeing guys walk around the team with the shirts on, just with pride on their face. And a couple of the guys were like, "Hey, you should make some more shirts." And I was like, "All right." So I just recruited a buddy of mine who was a fellow SEAL. He knew a little bit about graphic design, and we just started throwing some shirts together. And we were literally just selling out of the trunk of our car around the team. And, I think it was around Christmas time, we started like counting the money and we're like, wow, I think we made more money doing this than we have in the Navy this month. and like I said, I was going to, just stay in the military for retirement, but there was just something about surviving that deployment that just took all of the fear and anxiety away from, making large choices in life. And I'd always, had kind of that entrepreneur bug, and I always wanted to start a business, but I'd get all these ideas, but I would never truly act on it because I'm like, I'm not going to have time. And it just, there was enough steam and enough want behind the brand at that time. And I was like, well, there's a demand for the product. You know what? And no one believed I was getting out either. So I went into the CO's office. I was literally like, hey, I'm going to go on terminal leave. And he's like, Mikey, you're not going on terminal leave. Go muster the guys. And I was like, no, really, I'm getting out. And he was like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, this T-shirt idea is you're going to go sling T-shirts. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a good idea. Hear me out. and it was cool because, he listened to me and he said, you know what, if that's what you want to do, he's like, good luck, and, everybody's going to support you. And everybody did. And, the backing of the SEAL teams and the brotherhood is really what, launched the SEAL brand. And, that's why we've, always made the promise to give back to the community, who made us who we were. And I mean, that's been, for me, that's really been, the most rewarding thing for the brand is being able to give back and, help veterans and first responders and their families.
That's a beautiful thing. What you started, and then now look where it's gone. And so it's so amazing. Can you tell our civilian community what the Murph Challenge is?
Well, if you want to take on the Murph Challenge, it starts with a 1 mile run, followed by 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, followed by another 1 mile run. But you should be wearing a 20-pound vest or body armor. And the culmination of the Murph Challenge happens on Memorial Day, but the Murph Challenge campaign starts in early March and then ends on July 4th. If you want to register, go to themurphchallenge.com. The proceeds from themurphchallenge.com go to the Michael P. Murphy Memorial Scholarship Foundation and his museum in that same namesake in West Sayville, New York.
So how many of you guys do you do it every year? Is there any year where you're like, I don't know if I could do it this year? Is it just, or this is, you are committed? This is it.
Well, I am definitely committed to doing it. When you're the co-founder of something,
Yeah.
I mean, in the SEAL teams, if you walk the walk, or if you talk the talk,
Yeah.
you better walk the walk.
Yeah.
And seeing what Joe went through and his comeback, and I mean, I'm just gonna say, even with Joe's leg, he can still outrun me right now.
All right. So
there's already a preparatory course if you go on the Murph Challenge social media. We just launched our preparatory course for it. So you might be a few days behind, but you can go on there and you can follow the program. And within 6 weeks, you will be Murph ready.
So it's 6 weeks. That's a 6 weeks thing to get you ready?
We partnered with CrossFit. And CrossFit's basically presenting all the workouts for it. They build all the workouts, and if it's a little too intimidating for you, just like everything, it's like when you go to Buds, everybody says you got to take it not just one day at a time, but one evolution at a time. If you look at the Murph as a whole, yes, it's a long and arduous workout.
Yeah.
But if you break it up into little pieces, when most people do it, you break everything down. You'll do, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 20 squats, and you can break it down like that. And I mean, it doesn't matter. Don't get wrapped up in time, even if it takes you 2 hours. The main purpose of it is to pay honor to Lieutenant Michael Murphy and all the brave men and women that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. So as long as you keep that in mind, it's really going out there and breaking a sweat on Memorial Day, putting in the work and remembering, all of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. That's the true meaning behind the Murph Challenge.
I wanted to share because Annette's question was very relevant, but I always, again, and the more that I meet guys that were high level performers, operators, whether it's military or anywhere, I think they always have this creative instinct in them because for your guys' job, adaptability is huge, creativity is huge, and I think there's like this misconception that people in the military are like these kind of like direct order following, they just kind of have a single purpose. It is far from the truth. There's such creativity, adaptability, like so many great just things that make us amazing. And I think we don't highlight those enough. So thank you guys for getting it out there. And again, it's about amplifying stories and about sharing those experiences because not enough people know veterans. If you think about it, right? Even today, like with all of the stuff, there's probably still families who have never had somebody serve. I mean, there's such a small percentage of us that do this, that have that purpose and calling. So there's not enough of us. So I think we need to share these stories, and I want to thank you guys for doing that. And I'll let Annette go on to the next question. So thank you guys, man. This is awesome.
Kidding, I was on mute. I know we kept you on a lot longer than anticipated, but this conversation is just really, I just want everyone to hear it. So, but I will ask one last question so that we can close this out for everybody. But is there one message that you'd like to share with our fellow veterans that are navigating their new normal? What would that be?
Yeah. So for me, like, that's what I was talking about earlier with writing this book is finding your new normal. You got to find your new 100%, whether you've been wounded physically or emotionally or just, mentally broken down, because we've all, all veterans have served, or all people that have served. So basically all veterans will walk away with some sort of baggage, and that baggage you have to deal with. And, I like to look at vehicles, right? So we change the oil in our car because otherwise it's not going to last very long. But but we don't take care of ourselves. We don't change our own oil. And that's something that the most important thing we have is our body, and, take the time, take care of that. But back to the original question, like, what is your new normal? You've got to identify what your new normal is going to be, and you set a path to get to that new normal. And you have to wake up every day and reassess, where am I at and what do I need to do today? Because you may take a step backwards, and that's fine because you're going to, but you've got to set those short-term goals to lead you to those midterm goals, to get you those long-term goals. And that long-term goal has got to be a healthy place in life, physically and mentally, because I think they both go hand in hand.
Thank you. What about you, Mikey?
Just to echo what Joe is saying, and I think, the movie Warfare definitely helped get this out to people who, like you were saying, they didn't have a veteran in their family or no one that serves, but just seeing what veterans go through and remembering, like, this movie is just one day, in the life. It's a very bad day, but one day in the life of veterans. And I know, even sort of my own family members who went and saw the movie, they were like, I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. And I was, like to tell people that, you can always tell a veteran, I love you and I'm proud of you. And, that goes a long way. You don't have to say a lot of words sometimes, but just letting a veteran know that you're there and you care for them, and they are loved, and there's people out there that want to help them. And I know, just from my own personal battles, I was lucky enough to make it through the military with not having any, major physical wounds. But after leaving the military, I kind of compartmentalized a lot of things, and I just pushed it to the back of my mind, and there were times I would go to the VA, and of course, they just give you more pills and give you more pills. And, there are times when you just put everything behind, and then it starts compounding and compounding and compounding. And like Joe is saying, the mental portion of that is just as important as the physical portion. You have to take care of both. And you have to reach out and ask for the help, and you got to go find it. Just like Joe's saying, like, you got a lot of people that sit back and complain about things, or they, tell their family members, I got this issue, I got this problem, I want to take care of it. But you have to actually take that step, and you have to go seek out that help and that treatment. And I know for myself, once I started doing that, I mean, it just changed my life dramatically. And I mean, it gives you just a great, peace of mind and clarity. And definitely, if you're a veteran out there struggling and you need help, don't be embarrassed. Don't think that there's something wrong with you. Just, there's plenty of networks out there to help you. Just go seek help. You won't regret it.
So, I mean, that being said, Joe and Mikey, what are some resources that you guys know of that you could share? Because I know everybody's got different resources, and we all know different things. We're all in different areas. But again, there's a lot of people doing the same work that's valuable. So if you could just, like, if you knew a few that you'd like to kind of like highlight and just kind of throw a shout out that shown value for both of you guys, we would really appreciate that. And I know our community would love to hear other people doing good stuff. So if you guys have anybody to share, we'd love to highlight them right now. If you could just kind of throw a couple of organizations out, if you know them.
I know for me personally, I used a group called Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, vetsolutions.org. It was psychedelic assisted therapy. It was founded by a teammate of mine, Marcus Capone, and his wife, Amber. And for me, that's been the biggest impact, I know, for my healing journey. I was never a guy who was into meditation and yoga and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People would bring that up to me, and I would just be like, no, man, I would rather go to the VA and try to take a pill to fix it. Like, in my mind, like in the teams, like you're injured, you're hurt. Guess what? You take Motrin, you know, you hydrate, you get back out in the field, you take a pill, you shoot your back up a cortisone or something, and you get back in the fight. And that's how it always was. And after basically going through that treatment and learning, you know, how important you taking care of your mental health was, and like every morning when I wake up, just like brushing my teeth, I meditate. You know, I do just a stretching routine. I just take time to get clarity and presence of mind, and just really focus on my consciousness. And for me, that's made a world of difference.
Yeah, I would say, you know, there wasn't a specific organization that I kind of tapped into, but I do know that the VA, you know, once I retired, in 2021, the VA just pumped a ton of resources out. They're like, hey, here's a bunch of things that you could use if you need it. I didn't necessarily need it. I had my own network built for being in the SEAL team for so long. But you know, I will say though, taking care of yourself is the number one solution. And if you know, however you do that, you know, if you have to find an organization, because there's tons of them out there to help you, that's great. But you can just go back to the basics of just make sure you take time out of your day to look at yourself and figure out what you need, and pay yourself first, because we don't do that. We're typically trained, especially through the military, to take care of everyone else first and then yourself last. Well, you run out of time, so you never take care of yourself. So you've got to make yourself a priority if you want to help yourself, or if you want to take care of your family, you have to take care of yourself first.
Thank you very much for both of that, for both of those thoughts, because it is hard to remember when you have a team, and maybe you don't need all those resources, but there are some that are out there that could fit you. So I appreciate that very much. Again, thank you both for your time and for what you do, and for being here. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So honored to have you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thanks
guys
for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we just want to remind you, as you continue to walk on your own unique path, note that Veteran Lifestyle Magazine will always be in a space where veterans, military families, and supporters can find resources, inspiration, and a sense of community. We are committed to bringing you the stories, voices, and insights that matter most. You are not alone in this journey. And don't forget, you can follow us at veteranlifestylemagazine.com. We are also on LinkedIn and anywhere that you listen to your podcast. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next podcast of Veteran Lifestyle Magazine.